Hey guys. Alright. I gave it some more thought about the origins of life, and it actually took me somewhere which I didn't expect. See, as you know from my other video, is that the origin of life comes from chemical compounds which are found on planet Earth under certain conditions, and energy beam from the sun programmed that chemical compound, and the energy brought it to life. I had to go over it, how life forms would evolve from that single life, and since this coincidence was that this life has started, that the energy beam had the wave in it that made it split and multiply, and so it multiplied enough so it would get large numbers. And you know the saying, the fittest will survive. Well, the truth about that, I think, is that if you help your fellow one, you will survive. Let's go the saying, the fittest will survive. So, by multiplying like this with that energy beam, and we can take in contest the energy beam. No, we can take in contest the Jurassic period and the period we live in currently. So I believe that first life on Earth, which we know of, is the Jurassic period, and that energy beam was shot in the chemicals produced in the end dinosaurs. Now, scientists think that a big meteor hit the Earth, or a volcano blew up, so all life on Earth was killed. Which would make sense, because the heat would be so much that everything would just melt. But the heat doesn't make chemicals disappear. See, the energy from the heat only makes the chemicals change forms. Like water, when you freeze it, it gets frozen, and when you heat it, it gets boiling and into steam. So after the meteoroid, the planet cooled down, and the chemicals were still there. So we had another chance, and we're talking about millions of years. So the right compound of chemicals were there, the condition became right again, and another energy beam from the sun. And I only think it's the sun because I only think the sun is capable enough to send that beam. If you take a close look at the beams the sun sends. Now stay with me. after the dinosaur period, because beams from the sun are irregular. They aren't like a steady flow of one beam. If you take a closer, a deeper, a more smaller look, you will see that the beams are irregular, just like snowflakes. So this time, the sun sent the beam which produced us, which leads me to the reason of this video. Seeing how life evolved from this to humans, us. We are like a lot of chemicals, mostly water though, and we have something called DNA chain, which is like a program for the body to grow, like everything we are, we grow. So as the saying goes, the fittest will survive. That energy beam was programmed that way that it could multiply and it would survive and it would stick together. Now, as the number grew larger, we were capable of these energy beams. These, I don't know what to call them. I'll figure out the names sooner or later. So don't you go off and try and tell me what they should call this, because I thought of it, so I should, yeah. I should at least have a saying in what it's called. So anyway, let's call it cells. It's the closest thing I can think of. So these cells were like, they were programmed the way that they could multiply, they would survive, and they would stick together. And when they came together, they were able to absorb more chemicals. Like, you know, there are niftynt, rotent, and ravent. I don't know what they call it in English, but it's the three particles, which is the smallest size known to man. And there it led me to figure out that I don't know enough. But it would be interesting, and I probably would have to explore space, and I promised myself I wouldn't do that for at least 20 or 30 years. But as the numbers grew larger and they spread more, and I believe that they covered the whole planet, and the energy beam was so energetic that it would like keep them alive for a long time. And so when they huddled up together, they were able to absorb more like these chemicals from a single chemical, like gold or whatever is in life forms, you understand, to complex compounds like skin are made of, and lungs, and brain, and ears, and nose, and teeth, and stuff like that. So as the number grew larger, the life form became more complex. And eventually, because of how the beam was programmed from the sun, which is actually coincidence, they would have to grow in something of a primitive life form as we know, and they would involve in having DNA chains. So the extended period of their lifetime would grow with limitations. So this would all start with what we're calling a single cell now, and with an energy beam from the sun, which is in pattern programmed to 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 involve in what we are witnessing now in life. So it would grow into primitive life forms, and scientists believe that these were single cells, and single cells would grow and they would keep more adapting, and have in mind that the earth was evolving, but the conditions were right enough. So they would grow from single cells, and if I remember correctly, single cells have like DNA chains, and these DNA chains are made of a certain compound of chemicals, and they hold like information how the shell should be built. Now that's the first primitive programming, and it would evolve after adapting, after like after adapting and like and growing in larger numbers, it will evolve to like primitive species, and it just keeps building, and it's like the wave was programmed that way, that the wave was programmed that way that it would be a constant search for, could you call it perfection? It's like we have these fingers, we have a thumb and 3-4 fingers other, and we can use them. And keep in mind, there's not only species, trees, I don't think they have, I don't know what they have, but they have probably something. I can't remember right now if they had something similar to DNA. But plants and God, that's about the 4 different life forms I can think of. It's all have the same material, the life, which came from the beginning. God, which I believe is in the center of the planet, the oldest, the wisest living being, not the original life from the way back in the beginning, but I call him still God, and still call the original life God. And so it's God, it's all what do you call it, free, it's all free living things that can walk, swim, fly, whatever. Then there is trees which have roots, or all things that have roots or in the ground. And then there are life forms, which I believe there are billions of, which we can't see. So it's nothing more like that. The thoughts led me to how the brain works, and I had actually given it a lot of thought and coming to a conclusion. And this was actually just just what do you call it? A confirmation of what I already believed. So I want to tell you guys, because you're probably wondering, how does he think of this? And for me, it's fairly easy. See, I divide things in two things. I divide them in life, which is all living thing, and dead things. Now, there are limitations to life, as we know it. But among these things which are not limited are imagining no limitations, which makes life so beautiful. I mean, what happens in life is it's often so beautiful, and you can just imagine what we can do with life and how beautiful an entire lifespan can be. Then I divide them in things that aren't life. And see, I have no rules in life. I don't break the law though, and I don't I'm not mean to myself or other people. I find that like roadblocks in my mind where my thinking becomes distracted. So I'm a very popular guy, and I go everywhere, but I always try, as putting my hand in a fire, like not to do it, and it's breaking the law and being mean to yourself or others. Now, when I have what is called breaks from life, I absolutely love exploring what's dead on planet Earth. I mean, you can spend your entire lifetime. My estimate, in a lifetime you would have 36 billion thoughts in a regular lifetime. And spending time looking at things from a single particle to what these amazing particles can build, from a lighter to a pipe to a glass of good Coca-Cola. Enjoy it. I love Coke. It's a unifying something. So when I get these breaks, I love to just look around. It doesn't matter where I am. In like 99% incidents, I mean, I find something interesting. I mean, I see a wall and it got paint. It got two different sides of paint. I can knock on it and I know it's cement. And I worked with building houses, so I know there is something. There's concrete behind it, and there's iron in the concrete, and the wall is thick, and it's special cement, and the house was built this way for a reason, and the paint, and you know, you can just by looking at the wall, you can go like for hours. But when life kicks in, I'm always fast. And as I grew up and got older, I found that what we call catalytic, what I explain in English, many different shades of love. It's the most valuable expression you'll ever have. And I keep my going like that. So when I get breaks, I simply just connect the dots. But I always start with something. I start with like a question, one question. So it could be from like, how do I screw something in the wall so it will definitely not fall? And from this idea, origin of life. And when my mom breaks and I try to connect the dots and I find there's something missing, I just put it aside. I mean, I don't have high-tech facilities, I don't have staff, I don't have higher education, so I just put it aside and keep going through life like this, showing love when I'm enjoying life, and when I get free time, I do what I call this research. So that's how I connected life, origin of life. Just connected the dots. It isn't more complicated than that. And what I find most rewarding about this all is satisfaction of knowing. It's the satisfaction of not having like, how do you explain it? It's the satisfaction of I remember this the other day. It was the satisfaction of I totally can't remember this. But remember, we're humans. A human makes mistakes. We're not robots like computers, where every calculation is right. Among things, being human is trying to better yourself and not make the same mistake twice, like big mistakes. I'm not talking about putting your socks in a wrong drawer or something. I mean, being human means that you're alive. So you should know that you will make mistakes. So the satisfaction I get from this is actually I know this, but I can't find the right words. So I'm gonna try to put it in other words. The satisfaction I get from this is it's like life. I mean, this is what keeps me going. I don't know what keeps you guys going. Not exactly, but this is a way for me to like go through my 90 years, and I truly enjoy it. I have a lot of other ideas and a lot of other connections which I've made and stuff like that, but I wanted to share these with you. Let's see what happens in the future, but let's live in the present. So So I want to make my next video, and I'm gonna do it right away, on how the brain works. Now this has puzzled scientists for centuries and long millenniums. See, the first science, I think, from a dawn of man is religion. It was just people like you and me trying to answer questions about life, because you will always have questions from other people, and life forms ask questions like in their nature. It's like, if you don't know how to build a house, it's gonna rain on your head. So if you don't know how to build a house, the fittest will survive, and I will ask somebody to help me or tell me, and they will. It's how we survived these thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. It's by the law, the survival of the fittest. Laws of nature. There are many other laws of nature. We go in that too. So I wanted to make my next video about how the brain functions, and I hope you like it. So please comment on this video and other videos. Please subscribe. It's a button somewhere everybody is pointing at. And yeah, I hope you guys have a nice time watching this. Thank you.